Yeah, so welcome everyone to the first Flatcar Developer Sync meeting. This meeting was earlier known as the Flatcar Release Planning meeting, and to increase the scope of the meeting, and we have changed the name of the meeting to the Flatcar Developer Sync. So, just setting the agenda. The meeting earlier, we used to have the uh, planning of the next releases that would be happening in Flatcar. To expand on this topic, we would be discussing the roadmap items, and we have folks who would be representing different topics on the same. So just going through the flow. First, it would be Tilo talking about the roadmap items, and then Kai it would be Johanan taking over the Cappy uh, roadmap, and then finally Kai would be talking about the SysX roadmap, and then back to me, who will be discussing the implementation board, that is the release section of the meeting. So without further delay, let's hand over the meeting to Tilu.
Awesome. Thank you, Sayan. Could you be so nice to share your screen and have a look at the Flatcar board? Because I'll need that to hang on.
Sure, 1 minute.
But maybe just question, so who's Leisure? Do you want to introduce yourself?
All right. We have a new person joining.
Must be some powerful person because he kicked out Kai. Don't mention him.
That's all right. We're very happy with Lurkers in the meeting as well. So if you don't want to say hi, Leisure, just stay on and watch us. Okay. So the first section, the roadmap section, is usually very short. It'll be slightly, maybe 1 minute longer today, but only slightly. And that's because the OS roadmap in Flatcar barely ever changes. These are huge items. You would consider those epics. So I just give you a brief idea on the in-progress items that we're working on. First of all, and a lot of things already happened in that regard. We have been putting a lot of work under the hood to automate and revamp the Flatcar build and release pipeline. That involves all activities with release automation, release management, build automation, build and test automation, and things like that. And it's a big thing, it's a big plan that we have, right? And a number of items are still open, and we kind of split that as something that happens before the build, something that happens during the build, and after the build, and that is the upload automation, making Flatcar available in the marketplaces of a number of clouds. So that's an ongoing effort, and everybody is jumping in and out of that. It's been started and driven by Cyan, but I think all of us have some skin in that game. Enable updating of OEM-specific tools. This is something that factors into Kai's general area. So this is Flatcar. If you initially provision it, ships with a OEM partition currently, and the tools that are deployed to support various clouds, there's no way to update them. This is kind of a legacy that we took over from CoreOS, and we've been working ever since to deal with that legacy and to support OEM tools updates just alongside base operating system updates, which we already do. This factors into the SysX initiative, and one of the OEMs that we are focusing on in this regard is Azure, and our follow-up interest, the next OEM, is VMware, that we're going to look into by shipping OEM tools not in a separate partition, but instead as a SysX, which is more flexible and will be updatable. Can we go back? Thank you. I don't think we need to dive into the others. Deprecate Torix in favor of systemd SysX. Torix is a very legacy method of extending Flatcar by just copying binaries and changing a lot of symbolic links. This isn't really future-proof, and there are a lot of better mechanisms around. And we're currently replacing what was Torx with SysEx as well. And the third is also a SysEx thing. You see a lot of focus on SysEx here, and that is on making Flatcar ready for systemd SysEx in general, foundational work, and systemd sysconfig. And that was pretty much all for the roadmap. We have a number of accepted and queued items, but as you see, that we've already a lot to chew on for the core and progress items as well. One thing that I want to point out at this point, we don't need to go through this in every meeting. You find another tab right next to roadmap, which is roadmap breakdown. And in roadmap breakdown, we track leaf issues for all of the in-progress roadmap items that you're currently seeing. So these are individual to-dos, feature requests, bug reports that factor in one particular roadmap item. And yeah, we kind of have a visualization of those here if you want to dive into and get an overview of like what's going on with individual roadmap items. And that's it from the roadmap section. Thank you, Sion.
You're muted.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ismail. So, Johanan, do you want to share your screen, or you want to continue on this screen?
We can continue on yours. That's what I was going to share anyway, so that's perfect. Okay. So for anybody who might not be aware regarding Cluster API, we already have support for a couple of existing providers, namely AWS, Azure, vSphere, and OpenStack. We hope to add more providers in the future. Let's quickly go through the in-progress list. So the documentation task is still in progress. We already have some quick start guides for some of the providers, but some are still missing. We want to provide great user experience for newcomers so that they can easily onboard to Cluster API using Flatcar. Magnum support is still in progress as far as I know. I think that one is being worked on by a community user. So I'm not sure exactly what the status is, but in general, we do have support for OpenStack, just if I understand correctly, not for Magnum at this point. The next item is being worked on by Mateusz, who I think is not on the call, so I'm not sure about the status there as well. I'm working on preventing noise updates during image builds, so that's nearly done. There is one last PR that's pending review now, and yeah, the race condition between kubeadm and containerd. This bug has been open for nearly a year, as far as I can tell. I think we need volunteers to advance that. So as far as I can tell, there is no ongoing work right now. If anybody on this call or anybody who listens to that later wants to take this on, please chime in on the issue. That could be great. I think that's it.
So, do you want to discuss the? I mean, are there any items on the proposed list that you would like to that would be the action over the next month or so?
Good question. So I'm not really clear about what resources we have for that. Personally, I think that support for Ignition v3 could be interesting to add, especially given that I think we are gradually migrating to Ignition v3 in Flatcar as a whole, right? Or maybe we have already, I'm not sure. So yeah, if that's the case, then I think it makes sense that we do the same move in Cluster API, but that's just my opinion. I don't know if anybody has proposals for other items we should prioritize. Yeah, we could work on them, given that we have volunteers for picking them up.
Okay, I think that's a good stretch. Maybe we can discuss on the proposed items, maybe over the matrix channel, and see like how we can prioritize the items. And then there's a couple of items which can be taken up on the in progress, so maybe we target those first. Cool. Okay. I guess we can now go over to Kai.
Maybe I wanted to add, so there's also the COPS cluster installer, and currently it doesn't support Flatcar because it uses cloud in it. And Gabriel Zamfira is working on making Flatcar's cloud init support the way cloud init is used there. And the long-term idea could, of course, be to also support Ignition in COPS, but yeah, that's like the current focus is just to get it working quickly by patching cloud in it, and he's working on that. So it's similar to the Kabi work, and I think it's good to mention it here now.
Yeah. Cool.
Just to make sure I understand, Kai, we're talking about COPS as an alternative to Cluster API, not as a new Bootstrap provider or something like that in Cluster API, right?
No, I don't know how people want to use COPS and in relation to Cluster API being available, but yeah, it's just a thing that people use still, or in addition to Cluster API.
Makes sense.
Yeah, okay. And so now we have this systemd sysexport here. And the main topic is to make the OEM software that we ship in addition to the base image updatable. And yeah, so Kashmir is working on this in progress issue of moving the OEM mount point. That's like the precondition to actually have it working. And then he's also working on the Azure OEM Sysex building as first one we want to migrate. And yeah, so when that is done, of course, the others would follow. And so these are two things in progress, and we also have some upstream ideas to make systemd Sysex better upstream. And Mathieu picked up one, and there's a rework needed in the pull request, so that's why it's currently a bit slow. And on the update side in Flatcar, we also need to consume these additional update payloads, and that's what William is working on with this UERS project. And currently, the idea is to assume that we have a signed version of this and it needs to get passed. And Dongsu wants to do the Rust format configuration for this new project. And planned is, of course, to adopt this also in the additional tools like Flatcar update, for example, and also like integrate the signing and not just the building, and more upstream ideas of making it better and more widely used, even with traditional distros. So that's about systemd Sysex. Any questions, or like, as you see, and we have lots of stuff in plans. So if you want to work on something, it would be interesting to know that, and that we can move it to progress. In progress.
Yeah, William, maybe you created a couple of issues, right? So are there ones which can be easily picked up by the community?
I don't know at this point if there's really anything that the community could pick up. I feel like the rest of the folks on the team have kind of like picked up the majority of the work so far. I think there's only 2 other tickets for UERS as well, signature verification, and then the other one was so there's the signature verification there in planned, and then there's also the integration into the post update script for Update Engine, which Kai is handling right now. So I think UERS as it stands right now is like pretty good in terms of like scheduled work.
And I forgot to mention, so the long-term plan is, of course, to also deprecate talks and use systems, use sysax as was mentioned. And we currently have just one item for that in the planned column. There will be more when the work will start.
Great. Any questions? No. Are we? Do we monitor the YouTube stream? Do we have comments there? No. Okay. Cool. So we can then quickly move to the implementation board. So we brought in some changes to the board. So we have so earlier we had a no status board, we had a backlog, long term, and in progress and test reviews are the same. But what we essentially are planning to do is just for the ease of understandability. So all the new issues will be dropping into no state. There would be a no status board which automatically pops up when we add issue directly from the board directly from the issue, and then we point it to new triage. If we know that we would be working on it very soon, then we point it to like the upcoming focus column or the in progress column. And the long scope of long terms backlog is something is the list of issues that the team is not working on right now but would be working on sometime in the future, uh, but definitely not in the near future. And then long term primarily aims at issues which are kind of blocked, as well as I would say which would take some a good amount of time to resolve. And then the upcoming focus is the next set of issues that the team would be working on and fixing things. So essentially, like probably when folks have things progress in the in progress board, they would pick up items from the upcoming section and then move it to in progress. And then finally, once things are done, it moves to testing and interview. So that's kind of the gist of the board, the implementation board. We hope to have more activity in here. We plan that. Uh, so folks, from the team, I would request you to go through the backlog once, because we did some moving around. So Kai did a good amount of job on moving the board and closing a bunch of issues. And but I would suggest you to go through the backlog because there are 209 of them. If you think there are a few items that you would be focusing on over the next few months, I think uh, focusing on in the coming days. So I would suggest you to put them into the upcoming section. And yeah, I guess that's from the introduction part. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, and the idea was that we have only a few things in progress, only a few things in upcoming focus, and kind of know that this is really relevant, and that's why other stuff is moved back to the backlog quickly if it's not really progressing.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I did some assignments and so on in these categories. So if you don't like them, you can correct them. And there are some automated pull requests now in focus as well, because I think we have to react to them. That's why this column is a bit longer now, and
Right.
in progress too.
Right. So in the past we had a couple of stock item in the in progress, and then the backlog had like 200 plus items. So it really became a problem on triaging the issue. So that's why the upcoming, as I mentioned, came into the picture. So the idea would be like, in the short term, we keep on looking in these three lists, and the idea would be to keep it like around 10-15 of the items, and that should be a good number. And eventually, like, this would move into the next board, that is a release planning board. So going through the list, I would say we discussed about so going through the in progress list. So we have the sysax part, and then we had some issues. So we found that we don't have any NVIDIA GPU documentation. So that's something I worked on recently, and the PR is open for review. So if you folks can, actually, it's actually more so it would be, I guess, built in the next documentation build cycle. Then we have the extend Flatcar guide. So this Matthew would be working on. So one of the idea is to have even assignees to this list. So I think if there are no assignees, I would suggest to pick them up if they're on issues. So, and then this is a ignition support on cops that Gabriel has been working on. We are automating system packages, which is in sysapps. The PR is open and open for review. This one, uh, thanks for thanks to Kazimir for dropping in his comments. Then we have the kernel updates. We have mm, uh, yeah, I think Matthew is not in this call, so this is one item which I was thinking, and do we need to put it into long term or not? So I'll take a note. I'll ping Matthew and probably move this out if it's not actively worked on. This is one item I've been working on right now. Like I'll probably create a parent issue for this one on the NVIDIA work that I'm planning, and then update it accordingly. And then yeah, I think that's mostly looking good. And yeah, moving on to the releases. So we are planning a release on 29th of May. Okay, so just before going or dropping onto the releases, so as we this no release status primarily includes all the issues PRs from in progress and implemented section. I mean the ones which are merged and are in progress. So we can put a release, particularly attach a release status to it, so that if you're working on targeting a particular release, we can put it in that particular release column. And so going over to the status of the release, on 29th of May we are planning a release. We have the documentation out. We are actively working on getting the sysapps thing getting merged. And then one of the good news is we have the kernel bump to 6.1. And Krejime created automatic updates for a couple of system packages, so that would be also going in. And uh, yeah, and we are also working on the weekly update. So there are a couple of packages that are getting updated in the same, so those will also be updated. And to just to give an update, final update, that we are planning to release a major alpha, major beta, minor maintenance release of stable and LTS. Yeah, that's, I guess, covers it. Any questions or any comments, thoughts?
I have a comment about the release, next release. We should actually update Go version to 1.20. Currently, Go is 1.18 and 19. However, we can just drop 1.18, which is EOL already, and update the default version to 1.20. And yeah, that should be very straightforward. So yeah, feel free to pick up the issue and work on that updating Go version. And also we have another issue of Docker 23 and container D 1.7. They are not visible on the board. I'm not sure why. Yeah. However, I'm not sure who is actively working on those Docker and container D.
So I did trigger a build for container D. It failed, but I, because was working on the NVIDIA testing, and the release last week I did not get time to look through the builds personally for the container D1. So I'm not sure if we can aim for this release. Maybe we can actively look into the next cycle and get it done.
Okay.
But yeah, this has been long pending. And I'll keep a note. So I'm planning to start the builds. I'll create the issues. I'm planning to start the build on Friday, so that we can get an early release by Monday. So let's see if we can update Go by then. Cool. Is there anything else that we want to discuss? If not, then thank you everyone for joining. Have a great rest of the day, and do put your feedback in on how we can improve this meeting. If you have any feedback, just drop in on the Matrix channel, or if you have any issues, contribution, if you want to contribute to Flatcar, just drop into the Matrix channel for Flatcar, and we can discuss this there. Thank you everyone. Bye bye. Okay.
And
Yeah.
Philo?
Bye.
Gabriel is also here. So if you want to say something, you can say something still.
You guys can hear me?
Yeah.
I was just a fly on the wall.
Yes.
I got in late because this meeting overlaps with another weekly meeting, but I was just a fly on the wall, given that I'm currently pushing the changes I am in Chorus, Cloud Init, and different other aspects. But great meeting. Good to see you folks.
Great to see
I
you.
guess next time I'll try to join from the start.
Okay. I'll stop the stream now. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, then bye.
Ciao.
Take care, folks.
Bye.